There, we got it. We got it. We got it.
Sorry we took a bit, but we are live.
Yes, we are live with another episode of BS Busters. And sorry, I had a little bit of a technical issue. I upgraded my graphics card, and it like every time you upgrade something on your PC,
You have to be sure every setting's working.
a lot of minor settings get changed, whether you want it to or not. So I didn't upgrade the graphics card. I updated the drivers to the graphics card, so a lot of shit changed. So with that being said, this is a special cast because I didn't come up with like most of the topics for today's cast. The panelists did. So instead of me introducing everyone, I'm gonna let Jewel introduce everyone, and then we'll get into it.
Thank you very much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, to the BS Busters and Elite podcast for nearly the last week of the month.
Yeah.
I'm Jewelry Eli Moonstar, and if anything, we're going to be trying to mix some stuff in together.
Yeah.
In short, it's a potluck.
Yeah, it is. It is. Jewel, you have to keep on introducing people.
So, I almost... Sorry, it's just that I'm used to you helping out. Also with us, Kanoshi, are you there?
It's Kanoshi Abominito. Glad to be here on another one of these BS Busters. It looks like Ubisoft has some competition, stiff competition.
Yeah.
True, but if anything, we'll be roasting those guys in a bit. But first, let me introduce the owner and proprietor of the BS Busters podcast, Mr. Red Fox himself.
That's right. Me, Mr. Red Fox, owner and proprietor of BS Busters. Let's dive into it. Let's start with something a little bit light first.
Let's start with the EA Play. Start with the EA Play.
Yes, EA Play. Let me bring that up. EA Play.
EA wants to play. So EA wants to play.
Well,
Cute.
EA Play actually has some pretty cool stuff here. I will screen share it. The first game that we have here is The Sims 4 Cottage Living expansion.
And I'm already wincing because I remember I used to be a fan of The Sims. So let's see what they offer this time.
Yeah, I used to be a fan of The Sims before EA decided to
Screw things up.
To over monetize the franchise. Like, because The Sims 1 and 2, and even The Sims 3, there was a certain point where they would do like a Game of the Year edition that had all of the expansions, and you could just buy that and get everything. The Sims 4 is when they started really just expansion after expansion and tons of DLC, to where
I was about to say it was in 3 that they did all this.
Well, 3 is where they started it, but 3 was still like at a certain point they stopped, and you could get a Game of the Year edition with all the content. There's literally The Sims 4 is the one where it's just egregious with the microtransactions and DLC. I mean, it is
Ferocious.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And I know some people are going to be like, but
there has to be something good, right?
I mean, I like The Sims. The Sims is, or as I like to call it, fake person torture simulator. Because The Sims is, if you ever want to figure out how to torture someone without ever laying a finger on them, The Sims
Were your best thing.
Is great. You know, if you have sociopathic tendencies and you don't actually want to go to jail for murdering people, The Sims is great to curb those tendencies without you having to do anything violent to another human being.
Just keep in mind it's all fantasy.
Yeah, if you want to, if you want to put someone in a room and drop a whole bunch of pizzas down in the room, and then make them eat a whole bunch of pizzas, and then remove the bathrooms and lock them in the room so they can't get out. So then they shit themselves to death. or
it's sim fun.
Or one of my other favorites, build a swimming pool in the back of your. This is in Sims 1, in the back of your Sims house, and then have them swim in the swimming pool.
And don't forget to yoink that ladder out.
And yoink the ladder or the steps out so they can't get out. So they swim until they die.
Yeah, that's a classic torture.
Oh boy! Like if you want to channel your inner Bond villain.
The Sims are your home central.
Yeah, if you ever wanted to channel your inner Bond villain, but you just like they didn't make a game that really let you do it the way you wanted to, The Sims. The Sims is for you, you know. And I know some people will say, "How could you do that?" Look, they're not real. They're fake. They're fake. You know, I'm the type of person who doesn't want to destroy an ant nest unless they're an invasive species. Then fuck them. But or bees or wasps. But the Sims, hey, they're fake. They're not even real. They're programs.
I was about to say, it's like watching ants in a torture simulator.
Yeah. So that being said, the next thing announced was Codemasters making Grid Legends. So for those of you, Codemasters is the company that EA bought. Codemasters was known for stuff like Overlord, and Overlord was basically evil Pikmin. I actually liked Overlord more than I liked Pikmin because Pikmin to me is just kind of overly simplistic and a little stupid, really. And the atmosphere I always felt was kind of like meh. But I really like Overlord. Plus, the minions in Overlord have a lot more personality than Pikmin do, in my humble opinion. But Codemasters also released a craptastic RPG called Jason and the Argonauts that was fucking terrible. But they were most known for, Codemasters is most known for making racing games. Even so much that they made Hot Wheels Racing on the NES. They've been around that fucking long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they just kept on making racing games for a long time. They basically were the like third tier racing games in Europe. So like they couldn't get their hands on shit like Gran Turismo or FIFA, or not FIFA, F1, Top Gear, anything like that. But they were like a second, third tier below that, and they were a nice competition to the high level shit you had coming from the big companies. And I personally don't think the acquisition by EA should have been allowed to go through because it stifles competition. But whatever. They announced Codemasters and Grid Legends, and for those of you who like sim arcade hybrid racing games, they're gonna have an exclusive Aston Martin as a vehicle. So, I mean, you know, Grid Legends from Codemasters. No talk about a new Overlord, but whatever. Next, they announced an expansion for Apex Legends. I mean, it's it's one of those multiplayer squad-based games. So, I mean, you know. A game that looked kind of interesting to me was Lost in Random. It's an action RPG where you fight your enemies with a dice. Like you're a little girl with a slingshot who hits enemies with the slingshot to get them to drop energy, which you then feed to your dice, which you can then use to activate special ability cards that you get throughout the game. So it's kind of like I mean, it's its own thing, but they're calling it an action RPG, and it's coming to PC and consoles. So, September 10th this year. So, it's not that far away.
And what's the name of this game?
Lost in Random.
Oh yeah, that game looks pretty good.
Yeah, I got kind of a Psychonauts vibe from it, but it's actually like turn-based combat and shit. So I'm like, yeah, game looks really cool. Looks a little hectic. So I was I was like, and the fact that EA's publishing it, and I don't like EA. Like even with like their indie initiative where they're actually starting to put out more creative games, I'm like, but you're EA though, you know. Knockout City is getting a update, a King Kong style parody, I guess. I don't know. I tried to get into Knockout City, and I'm like, this looked really cool. And then I played it on PC for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm like Naruto. I'm not feeling it. No, Naruto, believe it. Shulk is I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Battlefield 2042. It's Battlefield in the near future. 2042 is literally just 21 years from now, so you know we'll all be middle-aged by then. So yeah, it's Battlefield with near future technology. So and it has no single player mode, just a multiplayer mode. And I mean, they announced that they're going to have Battlefield Portal, with basically lets you create it's kind of like the Forge from Halo, where you can basically like tweak your own maps and add shit you want to add to it. So I guess that's cool. And they announced Dead Space. It's not a reboot. It's literally their remake. It's a remake of the original Dead Space. So, yeah. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that EA Play? Do you care? Do you not care?
I was surprised for one to hear that there was an EA Play. I knew they were going to do it. I was seeing stuff. Oh, EA made some announcements. Oh, they had their EA Play. I never was a big fan of their presentations. I always thought they were boring and never really saw anything that caught my eye half the time. I mean, there was that one year with Anthem when they showed Anthem, but that turned out to be a dud.
Well, Anthem looked cool, and then it came out, and it was like, oh, yeah, BioWare is fucked.
See, what else? Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the whole EA Play presentations.
Yeah, I think they should have just went at E3. Like, just had their shit come out at E3. Probably would have been better.
They should have just had a sizzle reel or something like, here's some games that are coming out this year. Now shut up and give us your money. And call it a day.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I mean, I've said this before. I think that EA Play. I think there was nothing at EA Play that EA could have just announced at E3. Like this, like we really did not need to wait 2-3 weeks from E3 just to, or like since last month at E3 to talk about this shit now. You know, it's like, for real? That's what you had people waiting on?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. As far as upcoming games go, I just like Like EA, like okay, like I got Mass Effect the Legendary Edition. I got it for like $47 off of Fanatical or Humble, whatever. And I like the Legendary Edition because you get all 3 games. The original Mass Effect is remastered. Here's an unpopular thing you might not know about me. I never beat the original Mass Effect. I got like 75% through with it, and then I just kind of lose interest, or something else would come up, and I would play another game. Love Mass Effect 2 because basically you can finish off a lot of that stuff. Mass Effect 2. So that's my big thing. But like I'm quite happy with like I like Mass Effect. I like Mass Effect Legendary, the Legendary edition, which has all 3 games combined together. Although it's missing like Citadel, the Citadel DLC from the first game, and they kind of changed some of the animations of some of the characters, so they're not as butt centric to the female characters. Which people are like, oh, well, that was outdated. It's like, you do realize that the original Mass Effect was really, like, it really centered, there was a lot of sex going on in the original Mass Effect. So I don't understand why people are all like, oh, I don't like this now. Whatever. So the big thing boils down to, what can EA do to basically get you interested? And I mean, I don't know where to go with that. Like what game could EA announce that would get you interested in anything that they would be selling?
A single player that is original of them.
That's going to be tough because EA doesn't really... Like, EA has their indie initiative where they're basically giving money to indie studios for games that are unique, but, like, first party... not first party, but, like, internal EA games that are original, I don't know.
It's a start. I was just thinking that it could at least be a path to the start.
I could see that. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've said this before. I haven't seen EA do anything that was really original for a while. That was like internally, we're EA, we're making this, and it's going to be unique. I haven't seen it yet, if at all, because EA these days isn't really all that
Inventive,
artistic, creative, not lazy,
money grabbing.
Well, they're business. They're business. They're a for-profit business. Every for-profit business is money grabbing.
As in beyond the normal for-profit business.
No, I mean let me put it this way. I'm a Nintendo fan. I like the company. Even they do shit where I'm like, okay, you're just being greedy. Now, they don't do it to the same extent as, say an Activision or a EA or, some of the other companies, but it's happening. So I can't really, I can't call out EA, Activision, and Ubisoft for the shit and then be like, well...
Oh, come off it, Red.
I won't say anything about this one company right here.
I was about to say, you know as much as I do that Ultimate Team is their greediest thing in the world.
Well, I mean, it's basically the equivalent of booster packs from back in the day. The only difference is...
I'm waiting.
The only difference is that with booster packs, it was much cheaper and you got something physical that you could trade with other people. Ultimate Teams, I mean, they're basically giving you digital characters, but if you have shit that you, let's say you have an accumulation of, whether it's FIFA Ultimate Teams or Madden Ultimate Teams, if you have an accumulation of characters, back in the day, like, because I remember playing with trading cards and shit back in the day. And the big thing was, okay, like, you have something. I have an abundance of, let's use Pokemon as an example, because Pokemon cards, trading cards I'm in the age group. I think we're both in the age. Yeah, but not like it was when we were kids. Like, okay, I want this card to finish my deck. You have that card, and I have something you want. We can trade them and call it a day. It's not like that anymore with a lot of this shit. These days, it's like,
all cards are bound to your account, and you cannot trade them at all.
No. I mean, you can do this thing where you can, I think in some EA games, you can recycle cards for, like, a base component.
Red, I'm going to be honest with you. You're stretching here, because here's the thing. I said trade with another person. Like, you are giving a card to them, and they give a card to you.
I wasn't.
What EA and them are doing are just dissolving your cards, making you basically have no way of.
Yeah, they have no value within and of themselves. That's what I was saying. What the steps that made is EA to basically make trading cards, like, have some type of value, but not really, because ultimately you're spending real money for something that has no real value aside from what people ascribe to it. And you can't trade that shit to other people. And
I was about to say that and even the game that those digital cards are supposed to be in there is not as entertaining as far as I know.
Well, that's going to come down to subjective opinion. Some people like for me, I when I was younger, when Yu-Gi-Oh first came out, I liked playing physical Yu-Gi-Oh. Now, if I'm going to play Yu-Gi-Oh, I prefer the online or video game versions of Yu-Gi-Oh because I don't feel like keeping up with binders of those trapper keepers of Yu-Gi-Oh cards and the nine panel cellophane things. Card protectors. I was one of those people back in the day. I ain't doing that shit anymore. I'm not doing that. I'm not keeping up with cards like that. So for me, the digital version of Yu-Gi-Oh way easier to play than anything I ever did back in the day. Like trying to buying booster packs, hoping that I could find the right cards to make the deck that I was trying to make. I don't want to do that shit anymore. So the digital version of that, like me not having to keep up with tons and tons of shit, or spending, like the way I look at it is, I would rather just buy a $39.99 or $19.99 or $60 Yu-Gi-Oh card game than spend like $30 on a starting deck.
On a pair of starter decks?
No, well, Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, you didn't get a pair. You just got that starting deck, and I think there were like 3 or 4 boosters in the starting deck. But then, in order to build your deck on top of that, you had to spend even more money if you were trying to build certain decks on booster packs. And good luck finding what you were looking for.
I was going to correct you on the decks because you often don't get the booster packs in the starter decks.
No, when it first came out. You did. You'd get one starting deck, and then it would come with like 2 or 3, like in the little 5-card boosters in there. But I mean, most of the time you weren't going to get anything good in there either, and that's how they started your addiction, your crack addiction.
I was about to say that I never got that.
Well, I mean, the one my parents bought me did, but
Lucky sob.
No, not really, because that's how they start the crack addiction. Like,
you really are, because I know, because I had one of those, and I never got one of those.
But my point is this: while the end game mechanics of Ultimate Teams and booster cards are different, like booster cards, you can actually take cards that you might have an excess of and trade them to other people or sell them on eBay or whatever. You can't sell digital cards. The idea behind you getting a pack of shit that's randomized, that's probably going to have trash that you already have or don't want, that booster card mechanic existed well before digital games started doing it with booster cards. Even back during the baseball baseball cards shit.
At least
That
the
happens.
physical stuff that you can get rid of them, or you
Yeah,
can
you
sell
can.
them, or you can use them for coasters.
Unless you have the incident where they had the baseball trading card crash, where it turned out that the baseball trading card companies were inflating the value in order to sell this shit at a hyper-inflated cost, and they weren't worth what the paper they were printed on. So they were useless. So, I mean, there's a lot of parallels about these companies being greedy and doing underhanded, shady shit in order to sell you useless crap. Just one is physical. I mean, I guess you could wipe your ass with a physical card, but why? That would hurt. I mean, maybe you could cut cocaine with it, but you can't even roll it up to snort it. I mean, whatever.
Unless you stoke it.
Even then, it's like, that's a waste of whatever. Anyway, so Kenoshi, you just joined us. What could EA do to get you interested in their portfolio of titles?
I mean, like you guys were saying, maybe some more original content. I know that, the World of Random looks interesting. I think that'll be something, a game I'll pick up when that comes out. Let's see.
Yeah, it looks cool.
But, do something more interesting with their original IPs. But
all right.
yeah, I'm not exactly sure. There's not particularly any IPs that I would say. Maybe bring back the EA Big stuff with
the more arcadey sports titles, like
rather than focusing on Sims.
I could see that. I would love. I mean, I personally would love to see a new. I would like to see them bring back the Mutant Football League, Mutant League Football. Like, I would love to see, more arcadey, fun shit like that. Because I'm telling you right now, I am getting tired of. I'm getting tired of realistic games. Because, I mean, I live in the real world. Why the fuck would I want to play a game that reminds me of the real world? The real world sucks. Like, I play games because I don't want to enjoy the real world for escapism. Yeah. Like people like,
probably
man.
The reason why NBA Jam is so good.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, now I'm not saying I'm against every sim. Like okay, here's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love certain car driving simulators. Like, I love Top Gear. I like going in and tuning my vehicle between races and legs of races based on the location, the track, the route, the weather conditions. I like shit like that. I have a driver racing wheel with paddles and a stick shift to play those types of games. So, there's certain things where, I enjoy the simulation, but for most games, I don't want to, why the fuck would I want to play a sim? What the hell's wrong with you? But whatever. It is what it is. I guess we can continue talking about, Amazon. Amazon is 3 for 3 for their games released, and performing poorly. First they had that game that they released, and then it was so bad they took it out of release and then canceled it. And then there was that other game they came out with that's just kind of been just dawdling along. And now this game, New World, which apparently is so poorly optimized that it's killing people's graphics cards.
It's that bad? Oh, God.
I mean, I don't know if the game is bad, but it's bricking people's graphics cards. Apparently, if you have one of the highest end graphics cards, whether they be NVIDIA or
I was
like.
about to say it seems like it's trying to Bitcoin you.
I don't think it's crypto mining. I think that it's just poorly optimized for those highest end graphics cards. Because I haven't heard of people with lower or mid tier graphics cards being killed by the game. So I don't know. This is a coding issue. This isn't a crypto. Yeah, this isn't a crypto mining issue. Although it wouldn't be surprised, if it wouldn't surprise me if Jeff Bezos was doing some crypto mining on the side so he could afford those flights into space. That bald-headed, evil Bond villain-looking motherfucker. Like if we found out that Jeff Bezos was a James Bond villain, would anyone be surprised? He even has a Bond villain last name. You expect me to talk, Bezos? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. But first, would you sign up for our Amazon Prime program? Anything but that, Bezos! Anything! But we'll cut you a discount. For $60, you get access to all this content. Oh, well, shit, you didn't say that. Sign me up, Bezos. Anyway, yeah, so... Yeah, I mean, this just shows that Amazon doesn't have a handle on fucking releasing games. But I mean, the good thing is that this happened during the beta, because imagine if during the closed beta, because imagine if this shit had happened when the shit released commercially to a lot of people. That would have been real bad.
They're gonna have a mess.
Well, I'm surprised that this made it this far, because that's like a basic coding issue. Like, how did they not figure out that this game was basically
buggy and unfinished?
Well, I mean, it's an MMO, and like no MMO that was released day one had all the content that was supposed to be there day one. Because by its nature, MMOs are constantly getting new content and areas. Like, there's a certain set amount of content until you reach a certain point, and they're going to add that as time goes by. Of course, there's always some players who are always going to fucking play ahead of the curve. But, it's unrealistic to expect an MMO to release day one and for all the content for the complete game experience to be there day one, because, shit is subject to change. I mean, I think that in this case, like, this is a performance issue. Like, what the fuck were they playing this game on that
NASA's computers?
The highest
apparently in order to prevent the problem, because for some reason the engine, like you said, is very unoptimized.
Yeah.
The FPS jumps to like 1,000.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a FPS controller within the settings. You gotta turn on VSync. Now,
yeah.
If you don't have a VSync or an adaptive vertical sync monitor, VSync is awful.
Yeah.
It destroys there's input lag.
Yeah.
With VSync on.
So, I mean, if you have old games that aren't GPU heavy, it doesn't, it's just your choice. But for games which utilize a lot of your GPU's resources, and it's unoptimized, it destroys your graphics card. And right now, this is from Jay's 2 Cents, which is a tech YouTube channel. Basically, here are the GPU's graphic cards that are having issues. RX 590, 6800, 6800 XT, 6900 XT, 3080 Ti, 3090. So these are all very high-end graphics cards. The RX 590 was the highest end graphics card from AMD last gen. So every graphics card that is high-end on here is basically subject to getting burnt out by this fucking system. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't. I mean, you guys have any thoughts on it? On this poorly optimized mess
This
of a
MMO
game?
is going to be. Oh boy.
Well, that's weird because normally MMOs are very low, or very are low. They're low spec so that they can reach the largest audience.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like, WoW looks like a really high-end 360 game, and that's on purpose because, again, it's supposed to reach the largest audience, and it's supposed to make it that way so it's easy on the servers as well.
Yeah.
You don't put a lot of graphical detail in an MMO. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 1. Guild Wars 1 looked like a PS2 game. Guild Wars 2 looked like looks like a really pretty 7th gen game. Like,
Yeah.
and it's designed, and like even the best looking MMOs are designed to run on a potato so that they can reach lower end people. Like, I don't get that. I don't get that shit at all. Like, but you know, it is what it is. Anything else you guys want to go over till we move on to the next topic, or have we exhausted Amazon's craptastic graphics cards just destroying people's stuff?
If this is how they do when it's beta, heavens help you if that's not fixed before its final release date.
Well, like I said, the only good thing about this is that it happened during the beta. Because imagine what would it have been if this had happened during the full release, the commercial release. It would have been even worse. So, you know. I mean, if you're going to have shit fuck up like this, I mean, having it happen on the beta is when you want to have it happen, you know? You know, it's like if you want your rocket engine to fuck up, it's the perfect time is during the test, you know, during the testing phase, and not when you're trying to launch a dude into space. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I guess we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of these companies are starting to try to monopolize space, huh? Amazon and Tesla.
Yeah.
Or SpaceX, not Tesla.
Well, because they want to commercialize.
Owned by the same guy.
They want to commercialize space travel, which some people think that's a good thing.
That's a bit.
I'm not one of those people. Well, because companies that are for profit basically want to, like, for-profit companies want to cut corners in order to make money.
I was about to say, some of these people want to be like max profits and go with as little rent as possible.
Yeah, they want to cut corners in order to maximize profits. And there's some shit that I don't want someone cutting corners on. Like, if you're sending someone into space, I don't want you going with shitty
rental parts.
Well, with subpar parts in order to meet a deadline. Like, in order to meet a quota or whatever.
You don't want C-grade parts on something that requires A-grade travel.
Yeah, especially when you're going into space. Shit. Because listen, it's bad enough when it's aircraft, but there's a chance with aircraft that you'll get like a Sully Sullenberger who can land your ass safely. In space, if there's a failure, you're basically fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a YouTuber who said, yeah, I totally support the privatization of space travel. I'm like, I don't. Like, there's certain things that, like, should not be for profit.
Yeah.
And space travel is one of them. I'm sorry.
I think what SpaceX does is they're contracted by the government, so what they do is like send supplies.
Yeah, I don't trust those motherfuckers either. I mean, one of the points of pride of an American was that we did have our own space program. Like, I don't want a fucking corporation running our space program. I'm sorry. I don't like that shit.
I mean, I get you, but I think the reason why people are excited about it is because there's been a lot of cutbacks as it pertains to NASA.
Yeah.
Supposedly. So it's like, oh, somebody's actually doing something.
Yeah, but like I said, it's a corporation, and at some point they're going to be like, okay, we've gone far enough. Let's cut back in order to, cut corners here in order to turn a profit. And there's just certain shit that it's not about turning a profit. like everyone's like, our schools don't have enough money. Good, give them more money. Because, I mean, you know, like, these kids need to have computers so they know how to use computers because everything's fucking computerized. These kids, we're losing money on school lunches. Okay. Wages are stagnant. People can't afford to feed their kids. But it's been proven that children who don't have a steady who don't have a steady source of food, learn poorly. Okay? So, yeah, you're not making money off of the school lunches, but having students who are fed means that you have children who are ready to learn, which means children who would be falling behind because they're hungry in class and hungry are paying attention. So, yeah, you're not making money off of it, but it's a net positive. Like, there's certain shit you're just not going to make money off of.
School, yeah, I figures public schools wouldn't be, profitable. I figure they weren't.
Oh, man. You would be surprised at the amount of political meetings I've seen where people are like, our schools are running out of money. I'm like, look, man, there's certain shit you're never going to make money off of. Mass transit, infrastructure, public schools. And to me, I consider space travel to be the future of mass transit. Because if you reach the point where people are going to different planets, sending... Like, that's not going to be, oh, we made money off of this. It's like, no, we're trying to get people to another planet. Because I hate to break this to people, but if humanity manages to get our shit together, eventually we're going to have to leave the planet. Okay? Now, do you want to leave this? Do you want the future of humanity not to be able to leave the planet because poor people couldn't afford to go on the ships to go? Because they didn't have enough money to make it? Because that's where it's going to go if it's all for profit. Oh, you can't afford this shit. You're going to stay on the planet that has been polluted to shit and can't be cleaned up because the companies that polluted the shit out of it aren't actually going to spend the money to fix the shit. But hey, to each his own. Do you think that it's gonna turn things around? Do you think that SpaceX and all these companies sending people into space, is it gonna make a difference?
Jeff Bezos and even Elon Musk seem pretty, they're kind of shady characters, so I doubt it.
Yeah, they look like Bond villains. I mean, I was joking earlier, but they do. Elon Musk looks like a Bond villain. Although every time he does something and it fucks up, I'm like, how does this man still have money? Like when he unveiled the Cybertruck and he hit it with that sledgehammer, I'm like, God damn, y'all didn't test this shit out before you brought it out there.
Oh man, that was.
Yeah, I'd be firing people. I'd be like, you know what? You made me look bad. Get the fuck out of here.
Everybody in that audience was fired that day.
The dude who gave him that the person who designed the Cybertruck, the person who gave him that sledgehammer. I mean, I would have fired the shit out of them. I would be like, you know what? You gots to go. You gots to go. Get the fuck out of here. You gotta go. You gotta get the fuck. You're fired. Clean out your desk, Johnson. Clean out your desk and get the fuck out of here. And never come back. I would have been like Scar from The Lion King. Leave and never come back. I mean, how the hell you gonna do some shit like that? That was so bad. But hey, you know, to each his own, you know? So I guess now that we've talked about that, I guess we can talk about the elephant in the room. Not really the elephant. Activision doing their best. Doing their level best.
To do the worst they could possibly do.
To be a bigger asshole than Ubisoft. I didn't think it was possible. I'm like, you know, Ubisoft, I mean, people were afraid to go to work.
There'll be some guys that want to open up mines by pounding.
Making rapey ass comments. But then Ubisoft said, "Hold my beer. I can make this shit worse."
Activision.
Activision said, "Hold my beer." Activision said, "Hold my beer, because you don't know what you're talking about. I can make this shit worse." Really? And then, I mean, like, look, Ubisoft's like, oh, we just made rapey comments. Activision's like, oh yeah, we had a motherfucker actually rape somebody. Not only did he rape someone, he took pictures of their junk and shared it with people. And the lady later killed herself. What you gonna do about it? Yeah! These nuts! Activision. I mean, god damn. It's I have never seen some fucked up shit like this before. And the more I read about it, the worse it gets. It made me feel dirty reading it. That's how bad it was. Just really fucking terrible. Just like, ugh. Like, after you read the article that talks about what these people have been going through, and really, like, Activision is the trifecta of bullshit, because, like, it's not enough that, you know, they were victimizing women, so sexist, but you also have racism. Like, they specifically targeted women of color and people of color with discriminatory practices and not paying those people a fair wage.
Which is kind of... Activision did this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the thing about Activision is, you know, they were going... It seemed like by what they were doing with some of their games, they were going towards more, you know, equality with certain rules that they were doing with some of their online games, like Overwatch and whatnot. And it seems like in reality they were doing the exact opposite.
Yeah. That's about it. I mean, it's bad. I mean, what Activision was doing was bad. Like, it was legitimately some real fucked up shit. I mean, some real, like, I feel kind of gross even, like, reading what was like, it made me feel dirty and I didn't do anything. You know what I mean?
It's that kind of blow that makes you feel like these people exist in this world. Really?
Well, okay, so here are the allegations that I have read thus far about what they were doing to employees at Activision. I put in the title placard of this of the of this thing is that there was racism, sexism, exploitation. Racism, like female, there was a female black employee who wanted to take time off, and she had to write a fucking essay about what she was going to do with her time off in order to get her time off. When everyone else, when her white co-workers who want to take time off just put in for time off and got it. Like, you have to justify.
Video games, or basically we're doing nothing.
Yeah, you have to justify your time off. You know, there were women who were forced to do the work while their male co-workers would fucking just play video games. Once again, women doing all the work, men sitting there doing fuck all or nothing. And, you know, exploitation, apparently women were getting paid less than men, getting passed over for promotion. Minorities were getting passed over for white dudes. You know, and it's just like, damn. I mean, you know.
Are we back in the 1950s?
Oh, this goes back further than that. This is America. You know, if you
I was trying to be sure I aimed at the right time period.
If you don't have a dick and you aren't the right complexion, you're pretty much SOL. Because this is America, baby. I mean, you know, it's fucked up. Nothing else I can really say about it.
Yeah, I already knew it was effed up and way back already.
And that's just me. That's me just giving the general overview of what went on. I would implore people to go on Bloomberg and look up in depth what the article was, because what these people have had to go through, I wouldn't want to go through. I wouldn't wish what some of those people, and you know, we didn't even get to the poor lady who was coerced into having a relationship with a dude who took pictures of her private parts and shared it with his compatriots, and she killed herself at a company retreat that Activision had.
And if I remember right, they also brought toys.
Oh yeah, he brought a toy he was going to use on her at the retreat.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
fudge.
Yeah, this is look.
Activision Blizzard.
Ubisoft is bad. This shit is even worse than Ubisoft. Like, I didn't think we could go worse than Ubisoft. Yep, here we go. Worse than Ubisoft.
So, if anything, to get something like this out of the way already, thank you, Activision Blizzard. You kicked Ubisoft in the balls for being the worst.
Well, I mean, they're equally. I mean, they're not equally. They're both bad. It's just Activision is worse. Yeah, Activision is worse. Both of them did this didn't happen. This is bullshit. We'll deny it first, and then as more shit comes out, oh shit, we can't really deny this. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. I'm disgusted. But what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Nothing's gonna be done. People are still gonna buy their games.
Yeah.
People are still gonna, pay for their WoW subscriptions.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing's gonna get done.
Like, people are playing
I'm
WoW.
not checking.
Yeah, people are playing WoW. They're like, we're gonna protest in the game. It's like, if you really want to protest, cancel your fucking subscription and go play something else. Like,
Yeah. And if anything, makes me wonder how many games of Activision and Blizzard have came out, since I'm already not going Ubisoft's way.
well, I don't really have any Activision Blizzard games on me. Like, I played World of Warcraft a long time ago for like.
I never touched World of Crack.
I got a free 3-month subscription, and I was like, oh, this is nice. And I played it for 3 months, and I was like, yeah, but I don't want to pay $15 a month. Because when World of Warcraft came out, I was in high school, and I was living with my parents, and I didn't have a job. So, there was no way. My parents were cash flow challenged sometimes. So there was no way I could be like, hey, mom and dad, or actually, no, not mom and dad, just my mom, because my mom wasn't even married to my stepfather at that point. Yeah, hey, let me lend me some money so I can spend money on a video game. Come on, man. I couldn't do that shit. That was just stupid. So, I just had to sit there and take it. I played 3 months of it, and I was like, oh, this is nice. And then I just moved on, because I was like, I can't, I have no way to, to fund me having a subscription to World of Warcraft. So, but I don't really have any World of Warcraft games that I play. Like, I don't play, I don't play any of those games, so, I don't know. Do you guys have any Activision games that you like or wanted to play?
Yeah, I was gonna get the Diablo 2 remake, but
I've been curious, trying to see what Activision got. So, if anything, I'm already somebody that knows Blizzard from certain games, and it makes me glad that I stopped playing Hearthstone when I did.
Yeah, this is some fucked up shit, man. And I'm glad I'm not buying any of their shit. Like, nah, bruh, I can't. I can't. I really can't. Because they are just...
Too much?
Yeah, this is, because if you spend every dollar you spend at Activision Blizzard, you're paying for the salaries of people who did this shit. And I'm like, I don't want my money going to some sick fucks like this. I'm sorry. I know people are going to be like, oh, you can't, well, what about... Yeah, but, I mean, like, they already said it was a boys' club. It had a frat boy mentality. I don't even think that's fair to frat boys, because, like I knew frat dudes when I was in college, and they were just kind of immature dicks, But this shit is this is some fucked up shit. This is like, ugh. Like I said, I felt disgusted reading it. I'm like, this is... I feel gross reading this. Yeah, I needed to shower after I read the shit. I'm like, this is disgusting. Like, I am literally disgusted by this. This is, like, And the only good thing about it is that it's being investigated by the state. And if those people are lucky, people will, there'll be some criminal charges drawn up. And I hope there are. I hope people need to go to jail for this. And I know some people be like, what?
Yeah, I mean, the sad part is probably ain't nobody gonna go to jail over this.
You know,
at least the people on the top are probably gonna.
Yeah, they're probably gonna. Yeah, they're probably gonna save their own ass. But that means that some of the mid tier people will probably go to jail. Somebody need to go to jail. Okay, some of this shit. Somebody needs to go to jail. Somebody needs to, somebody need to go to jail. Just on GP, people need to go to jail.
How much of this is actually going on in the gaming industry, though? Seems like we might see more companies come out.
I would not be surprised if this happens far more than we think. I would not be surprised if this happens far more than we think. I just think that the reason you don't hear about it as much is that, you get NDAs and people, sweeping shit under the rug and not talking about stuff. Because people love to sweep shit under the rug and not talk about it for some odd reason. I'm not sure why. So I don't know. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for these people, for these employees, because work is hard enough. Getting up, going to do a job as coding. Because I've taken coding courses, and for people who are good at it, good for you. But that is, to me, coding has always been like, fuck, this is needlessly difficult. So for for you to sit there and do that for a living, but then on top of having to do that, if you're a woman, have people harassing you sexually, touching you when you don't want to be touched, just people doing real fucked up shit. I mean, it's terrible. But I don't know. I think we've exhausted anything. Anything you guys want to add before we move on to the next topic, which will be introduced by Joel, since she brought it up. she put it in the chat log.
Yeah. Well, I was waiting for any interruptions.
No, go ahead.
All right. The topic I was actually thinking of a little bit to at least try to spice up a little, since we're near in the fall, since we're trying to near fall, why not bring up something that might be interesting? Mythical creatures of video games, or ever of 2 video game series. Do you think they actually represent what is shown in them? And I use God of War and Castlevania for examples.
All right. Which do you want to tackle first?
Well, if anything, God of War, and I'm gonna say that in a sense, Zeus is kind of portrayed a little rough, but they mostly got him, I think.
I mean, to be fair, I've never really been that into God of War. I saw people play it, and I'm like, I don't really like this franchise because I don't like their interpretation of the Greek gods. Because I'm one of those people who, were really into Greek mythology when I was younger.
Portrayed more like a pervert at times.
Well, I mean, he is a pervert. I mean, that family tree, the Greek god family tree of Greek heroes, there are so many Greek heroes that are the grandson or many times removed grandson of Zeus. He's had children with his daughters granddaughters, great granddaughters. Zeus is a perv. He's an absolute perv. Turning into animals to sleep with women like a swan, a bull. I mean, you know.
Makes you wonder what freaky things have been going on in Olympus.
He visited the mother of Perseus in the form of a golden ray of light.
And
I mean,
somehow he rocked her world.
Look, he's a god. He can do all types of things. he's a god. He's a great god. Okay.
Yeah.
You know.
And to go for the other side with Castlevania, Dracula, do you think he's portrayed right as far as the games give him credit for?
No. Vlad the Impaler was not a vampire. He was just he was a warlord. He was a ruthless warlord who would fuck up, who was fighting against the Huns of his time. Now, people are like, oh man, how could he do that to other human beings? Here's what you have to understand about the Huns during the time when Vlad the Impaler was fighting them. The Huns would go into a region.
He was also, if I remember right, he was also a child hostage as well.
Yeah, the Huns, when Vlad the Impaler was fighting the Huns would go into an area in Central Europe, and if there was a city or a town or a village, they would kill everyone, and salt the earth. Okay. So if you're dealing with people who are like that, you have to be just as, if not more brutal, to keep them from fucking with you. And that's what Vlad the Impaler had to do. He had to show people, look, he had to show the Huns, because, you know, and for those of you who are like, fuck the Huns, you know, Attila the Hun, he was basically like he was like a tier below Genghis Khan during his time. Yeah. Those motherfuckers, okay? So if you got those types of barbarians attacking you, you can't be, I will fight with honor. They don't understand that shit. You gotta be brutal, okay?
Yeah.
It's like in that movie Pitch Dark, where Vin Diesel kills one of the creatures, and he says he did not know who he was fucking with. You gotta be more of a monster than the monsters so that they leave you the fuck alone. And that's basically what Vlad the Impaler did. I mean, he still was a vicious, evil son of a bitch, but if you saw the people he was fighting against, it's like, well, shit, these people don't understand the language of peace. All right? In some ways, Vlad the Impaler was more of a badass than Count Dracula in Castlevania. Yeah, I said it.
I was going to say that the fantasy side is kind of a stretch, and it definitely doesn't touch the real side.
No. I haven't seen a really good interpretation of Dracula in a long time, either in movies or video games. Because Castlevania is just basic.
Yeah.
You know, oh, he's a vampire. He bites people. They turn into vampires too. Really, the lore of Castlevania before Koji Igarashi fucked it up was more interesting than the actual characters, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal opinion.
Where did he, what game did he screw up the lore? Is it Symphony of the Dawn?
No!
Symphony of the Night?
No, they changed the lore a long time ago. Because, okay, originally the lore of Castlevania was this. The first Belmont to fight Dracula was Alexandra Belmont. She was a woman. She had help defeating Dracula from Dracula's son. And when they defeated Dracula, they celebrated in the way a man and woman sometimes might celebrate surviving a deadly experience. Anyway, she had a kid who she named Simon. Simon himself is half vampire because his father was full vampire. That was the original lore. So basically, when you have Simon in the first two Castlevania games on the NES, fighting Dracula, like that's Simon literally fighting his own grandfather. So that's where the whole bloodlines thing comes in Castlevania and all that shit. Because there's a bloodline thing going on. And then basically, like, Koji Igarashi came in and said, I don't want to go with that. We're going to change the timeline and the storyline. He did that with the PS2 games, which didn't sell all that well for Castlevania. Because Castlevania just, for a long time, they couldn't figure out a way to put Castlevania in 3D. We now have a template on how to put Castlevania into 3D. Play Darksiders, that's 3D Castlevania. Okay?
Yeah.
But they changed the storyline, and then that piece of shit, what's his name, Kojima came in, and they changed the storyline even more with Mercury Steam and those craptastic Castlevania reboot games. Whatever. But I preferred the original timeline where it was like, okay, it's ultimately about a family fighting against each other, and people fighting against their natures. That was cool, and then they fucked it up. So, you know, it is what it is. But Dracula's always been kind of he's always been kind of a boring antagonist because, you know, I mean, only in Dawn of Sorrow and Aria of Sorrow did Dracula become interesting, when it's like, well, it turns out that Dracula has to exist in order to curb the evil that comes into the world. That was kind of cool, but, you know, by that point, it was like, well, I just like, this game's kind of interesting. Selma Cruz is an interesting character.
Yeah, those were the GBA games, weren't they?
Well, Aria of Sorrow was GBA. Dawn of Sorrow was on the DS. That was the one where you had to draw runes and shit on the lower screen, because, you know, that's what you want when you're playing a 2D platformer, to stop in the middle of the action and draw with a fucking stylus.
Yeah, some of that stuff was
Forced.
like yeah, it was forced.
Yeah,
we gotta find an excuse to use this stupid screen. So
yeah, I like gimmicks when they're utilized well, but if you're just like really forcing them in there, I can't get down with that.
I mean, the reason I couldn't get into the Zelda games on the DS is because you needed to control the character purely
with the stylus. Yeah, that ruined those games for me. There were certain games that Nintendo re-released on the DS where you had to use the stylus, or stylus was preferred, and the stylus control just ruined it for me. Like Mario 64 DS, great game. Too bad you got to use the stylus to really play it. But what do you guys think about that? Hello?
Oh, I don't know. Think about the what happened to Jewel?
She left. I guess she'll come back when she gets a chance. I guess we can keep it going. So the next character, Ares. Did you like Ares in God of War? Did you care?
I don't know. I don't have a deep rooted understanding of mythology, but I don't. I mean, what I know from mythology, it just seems like I don't know. I mean, obviously, God of War is a complete bastardization of, mythology. Probably compared to other things that have, come out. It's not a particularly great interpretation of those characters. How did you feel about it?
I mean, I've said this before. I never really liked the God of War interpretation of these characters because I'm one of those people who really liked Greek mythology. Oh God, the school I went to, they taught humanities, and our humanities classes basically, you had to take at least every single semester quarter you had to take some humanities course, and you could take any. They were like electives but mandatory, and you could take anything you wanted. You could take like Roman mythology, Greek mythology, Native American. Mythology, like you could, and they would cover like different Native American creation stuff and stuff like that. And I did Greek mythology like every year, like higher tier Greek mythology. And by my senior year, I was basically taking like college level Greek mythology courses. So I really know my Greek mythology. And man, did I fucking hate God of War, how it bastardized Greek mythology. So I wasn't all that into Ares as a character. Or how they're like, oh man, you know how badass Kratos is. Like Kratos beat Hercules. Hercules, the original half-human demigod who beat the shit out of Ares. This fucker beat Kratos.
I think Kratos.
Kratos beat Hercules.
I think Kratos is supposed to mean chaos, so he's like the embodiment of chaos. That's what they were going for.
Man, I don't know what the fuck they were going for.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But I don't know. I wasn't that into it. So I don't know. But yeah, I wasn't that into Ares' version of that character. Next, Death in Castlevania. What do you guys think of Death in Castlevania? You think it was a cool interpretation of Thanatos, Death?
That I don't know. Because again, I didn't play the Castlevania games. Like you guys have.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played all the Castlevania games. I stayed away from those ones in Final Fantasy. What was it called? Final Fantasy. Castlevania. I didn't play the Mercury Steam Castlevanias personally. I remember borrowing them from a friend for my PS3 and playing through like the first one. And I was like, this is some bullshit. And when they said they were doing a sequel, I was like, I'm not. This is when Let's Plays were taking off, and I saw someone playing. I'm like, I'm not really into it. So I don't know. But what do you guys think about that? Nothing. No one. No one have anything.
I just think a lot of these interpretations, they just give them names. You know, use the names of these Greek gods and.
I mean, Death looks cool in Castlevania, but that's about it. He just looks cool. Like he doesn't really do anything but look cool.
Yeah.
But my favorite Final Fantasy, my favorite Castlevania, my favorite Castlevania villains are the three masters, the three fiends. I think they were really cool. Next we have Poseidon and God of War. I mean, doesn't Kratos kill Poseidon? Doesn't he kill
really
all the Greek gods?
Yeah, see, that's the problem with the God of War. Is like the idea of killing all the killing all the gods. Kind of a. I mean, I don't know.
He kills Hercules.
I mean, Hercules is a demigod, so
yeah,
he technically killed.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, okay, like, if you know Greek mythology, you know that Hercules is, like, he's one of, like, Hercules is so fucking strong and so powerful that he picked up Ares and stuffed him into a bottle and locked him in there. Like, Hercules is, like, he's unbelievably powerful. He's one of the greatest Greek heroes of all time. And this fucker, this bald-headed, created, mystified character that they just created for the sake of their games can beat one of the most powerful mythological Greek heroes? That's my problem with God of War. They just keep on pulling shit. It basically, you know how, like, the Resident Evil movies with the guy who made the Wes Anderson, like, all of them basically turned into, this is how great my made-up character played by my wife is. Like, that's all the Resident Evil movies are. Like, that's all God of War is. Like, look how awesome Kratos is. Look how awesome Kratos, and now they're starting the same shit with fucking with Norse mythology. Look how awesome our made-up character is. Isn't he more badass than established fictitious characters? Ha ha ha. I mean, it's like someone doing fan fiction. It's basically, God of War is like someone doing Lord of the Rings fan fiction, also that they can show how badass their made-up character is compared to Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Frodo, Sam. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's all God of War is. It's a video game fan fiction for Greek mythology. And I don't like real fan fiction, much less video game fan fiction.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, to each his own. Which leads to the final character that Jewel had in the topic, which is the Wolfman. I have never seen the Wolfman in a Castlevania game. I've seen the Batman in Super Castlevania 4, who was...
What's the difference between a werewolf and the Wolfman?
I don't know.
Does the Wolfman have more sentience?
I have no idea. Like both of these games bastardize the mythos behind these characters. So I don't behind these creatures or beings. So like I don't see, like, I know Dracula and Death. Medusa heads are kind of interesting. Coronat, which is supposed to be a golem, but it's really a ton of rock. Like, I don't know.
Well, how do you feel about the interpretation of the Greek gods and Hades?
That's a bit closer to their actual nature, a little bit.
Yeah.
Like how Hades is just a put upon administrator. Like, I'm not the god of death. Like, I have to, like, this is my job. Like, I basically am a glorified bureaucrat.
Or basically the glorified manager of all that's the afterlife.
Yeah, that's all he really does. Like, everyone's like, oh, death. Like, the Greeks understood that death is a part of life. If you're born, your ass is eventually gonna die. All right. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the, like, it would be. Do you know how horrifying things would be if no one ever died? Do you know how fucking overly
populated?
How overly populated we would be on Earth if that happened?
Some things are best left not to be mentioned.
It would be terrible. So people were like, yeah, live forever and all that shit. No. The Greeks understood that people eventually die. The Greeks, like, this Christian concept of heaven, where, if you're good, you go to heaven. The Greeks realized most people aren't great. And most people aren't totally evil either. Like, when you die, you go to a place that's like the life you lived. The gray moors, where it's like the life you already lived, except you're just going to be doing it for the rest of for all eternity.
Like, not everybody, most people didn't go to Elysium.
Yeah, most people did not go to the Elysian Fields. They just, they went to. It's like the world you lived in, but you're going to be doing it forever. So if you were a peasant and you farmed the land, you were going to go to your afterlife being a peasant and farming land forever. Okay, it's kind of sad, but hey, at least you weren't.
That's super depressing.
At least you weren't in Tartarus, where you were being tortured forever. And, like, they had, like everyone's like, hell with wailing and gnashing of teeth. Nah, man, the Greeks had a better hell, where they had psychological torture. like Tantalus, who fed his stepson to the gods. They literally put him in this hot-ass valley, where there was water hot-ass valley where he was hungry and thirsty, but when he bent down to take a sip from the water at his feet, like that he was wading in, it would drain out. And when he reached up to the branches that had fruit right up near him, he'd reach up to grab it, and the trees would lift their limbs so he couldn't reach him for all eternity. Or that poor bastard Sisyphus, who had to roll that damn rock up that hill.
And it always goes down.
And just right when he's about to get to the top, it rolls it down again. Imagine the frustration.
I think there's a term that you boys already know what it is. Blue balls.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is the character Sisyphus in Hades is based off of this philosophical writing about purpose. Now Sisyphus had a purpose. It's a really kind of a weird philosophical writing. I don't know who wrote. I can't remember who wrote it. But yeah, it's that is bizarre.
Tell you something, the Greeks knew about suffering. Of course, the Greeks also had some fucking terrifying execution methods, like putting people inside of bronze bulls and slowly cooking them alive.
And don't forget the classic oil treatment.
Here's the punishment that the Greeks had for men whose wives had been cheating on them. If they wanted to, they could kill the wife, but they probably would. But you know what they do to the dude who was stooping their wife? They would take a horseradish, peel it, and shove it up the dude's butt.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, I'd rather die than have a horseradish shoved up my butt. I'm like, man, kill me.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, we all know.
I can imagine the twisted looks on those guys' faces.
And he shouldn't have been fucking that dude's wife. I mean, look, man. Look. Look. Okay. We all know that, allegedly, according to legend, a war was fought over Helen of Troy. The Greeks were real big about not fucking a dude's wife.
Yeah.
You don't do that shit. You don't stick your hand in another man's stew.
Yeah, but I was about to say
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that 1,000 guys fighting for one woman's affection.
Yeah, the thing is that, like, like, I've never been, especially in today's day and age, you know, sleeping with another guy's wife. You don't know if the husband's crazy. You don't know if he's gonna come in there with a shotgun and blow your head off. Like,
Worse.
you know, it's just like people who do that. It's just like that is such a roll the dice, dangerous game to play.
You're right. It is, but they'll do it. They'll do it.
They'll do it.
Or you get your ass whooped. You know, I ain't taking an ass whoop. Look, there is no piece of ass on this planet good enough for me to take an ass whooping.
I was about to say, you have to be a god to even get that close.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't even fight. I wouldn't even fight, even if it was my wife. And the dude's like, "Yeah, I want your wife." Okay, have her. Shit, I ain't taking no ass whooping for that heifer. Shit. Look, I can get another woman. Okay, but if I'm dead, I'm dead. Okay, that's the way I look at it. Okay. And I know what some people are going to say. How could you say that? That's a terrible thing to say. Allow me to elaborate before people get angry about how could you say that, okay? People need to stop thinking that marriage is about love, okay? Marriage is not about love, okay? Because if it were, there'd be less divorces, okay?
Oh, love is kind of this weird amorphous thing that kind of just.
No, I'm saying if marriage was really about love, there would be less divorces. Marriage, a lot of times people get married because they feel like that's what they're expected to do. Okay, they're like, oh, like a lot of women will marry a dude because they're approaching 30 or they're over 30, and they're like, my biological clock is ticking. I gotta get married. It's like, no, you don't. If you don't want to. Because why the fuck would you tie yourself down with another person because of outsiders' expectations or false expectations put upon you by society? Doesn't make sense. Marriage, if you really want to know how you should view marriage, marriage is a business merger. You're merging your business with another person's business. And you should equate marriage the same way good businesses equate a business merger. Why the fuck would you join your business with someone whose business is fucked up? Hey, it says here that your business is about to go bankrupt, and you've been in the red for the last 5 years, and you've got several suits against you that are going to totally bankrupt your business. I don't feel comfortable merging with your business and taking on your issues. Bye. If people had that attitude, people would be much happier.
And you got these idiots, these guys out there that just like to spread their seed everywhere.
Yeah.
They don't care. But yeah, marriage is something you gotta be all in or all out. Like there's no, there's really no in between. Like you're either gonna get married or you're not gonna get married. Yeah. And it's perfectly okay if you don't get married. Like people need to quit with like, oh, you gotta get married. So
no, people do that all the time. People's families do that. Oh boy, when you gonna get married? When you gonna die? Since we're asking people inappropriate questions. When your old ass gonna leave this earth?
I mean, it's just like, oh, and people are like, well, they try to scare you. Oh, you don't want to die alone. You don't want to be alone for the rest of your.
Well, I hate to break this to you.
There are a lot of people in marriages right now that are lonely as hell.
Yeah, I hate to break this to you, but unless you were born a twin, most of us were born alone and will probably die alone, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with dying alone. Why people act like it's so? Like most people, you know, if you take like a, because I took a psychology class where you go through the different phases of life. And I learned in that class, like, most people usually die alone in the hospital in a lot of pain. That's usually how most people
Yeah, I mean, if you're lucky, you'll have your family around you, and you'll have insurance where you can die somewhat comfortable, where they dope you up on morphine so you just pass away. That's if you're lucky. But a lot of people for the longest time died alone and miserable, or just miserable with people around you. You know.
Yep. That's usually how most people go. So.
You know, I mean, I'd rather, you know, like, or the why don't you have kids? Why the fuck? Look, listen, I barely can take care of myself. Why the fuck would I add another person to the mix?
Yeah.
But anyway,
again, having kids, you got to be very intentional about it. Same thing with marriage.
Yeah.
People aren't intentional about that sort of thing.
No, people just spread their seed like people just throwing seed onto some tilled soil and be like, well, whatever happens, happens. Anyway, that's the end of this podcast. We went a little bit over, but, you know, sometimes stuff happens. Peace, good night. Stay tuned. This Wednesday we'll get back to our normal scheduled programming where we'll be talking about all types of wonderful things that some people may like or dislike, but it is what it is. Peace, good night, and Jewel is in here. Hype responsibly.